At Galactic Tail Station orbiting the pale blue dot known as Earth, the atmosphere felt unusually tense. The usual hum of the docking bays and chatter of starfarers seemed muted, as if the station itself held its breath. Ambassador Izerp of the Vorb Sovereignty had requested a secret audience, a diplomatic meeting with humanity's representative, just days before war could be declared. Izerp had expected ceremony. He had expected veiled threats, the soft coercion of protocol. But the human who awaited him at the far end of the table was calm. Too calm. The room was functional, almost sterile, with polished polymer walls and a long table that could seat a dozen at most. No ornate alien decorations, no holographic insignias projecting authority, nothing that would intimidate. Yet there was a weight here, a presence in the quiet that made Izerp's gills flutter involuntarily. He stepped in, flanked by Lerp and Trope, his two senior technicians, each representing decades of intelligence and technical expertise. Together, they were the sharpest eyes and ears the Vorb Sovereignty could muster. And yet, Izerp couldn't shake a growing unease, a sense that this meeting was about to upend everything they thought they knew about humanity. The human ambassador sat upright, almost statuesque, with his hands folded neatly on the table. His eyes, sharp and unwavering, met Izerp's the moment the door slid closed behind them. They were unremarkable at first glance, brown, ordinary, but they held a depth of understanding, a silent calculation that seemed to pierce through years of layered security protocols and intelligence reports. "I didn't think you'd show up," the human said, voice low but steady, breaking the silence. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't arrogance. It was simple acknowledgement, a calm acceptance of the impending confrontation. Izerp's chromatophores flickered, subtle changes in the black-dotted green of his skin betraying the tension coiling in his chest. He had trained for diplomatic crises, but this was different. Humans, he had been told, were unpredictable, but he hadn't anticipated a presence so quietly imposing. "We have concerns that require elucidation," Izerp said, formal and careful, his words flowing like measured currents. "Questions that cannot be answered through conventional channels." The human leaned back slightly, studying the three Vorbs as if weighing their intentions. Then he spoke, his tone conversational, deceptively casual. "Let me make sure I understand," he said. "Your people are on the verge of declaring war on Earth, and the Council has interpreted our diplomatic efforts as weakness." Izerp paused. The bluntness of the question, delivered with such unshakable composure, made him flinch internally. "Yes," he admitted cautiously. "Our High Council sees hesitation as cowardice. The war faction has been gaining momentum." "Who are they?" the human asked, voice calm, eyes never leaving Izerp. "The Crimson Reaches," Izerp said, his voice careful. "Led by Zack, a veteran with 12 campaigns behind him, and High Counselor Blurry, who manipulates industrial alliances and colonial governors." "And the certainty of war?" 3 orbital cycles until the vote is final," Izerp answered. "The Council believes humanity will yield rather than fight." The human's expression did not change. But there was a flicker, almost imperceptible, in his eyes, something predatory, ancient, and calculating. "I think you're wrong," he said softly. "You're misreading us." Izerp felt the first pangs of unease tighten like a vice. The human rose, walking to a small refrigeration unit built into the wall. He retrieved a bottle of water, turning back with casual precision. "We're not trying to avoid war because we're afraid of you," he said, opening the bottle. "We're trying to avoid war to protect you." Trope barked a laugh, a reaction half disbelief, half incredulity. Even Izerp's own chromatophores betrayed a twitch, flashing uncertainty. The human returned to his seat, tilting the bottle in hand. "For the past 6 days, humanity hasn't fired a single missile at ourselves. Not one. No wars about religion, no territorial disputes. Radio silence across every internal front. And yet," he took a sip, eyes locking onto Izerp, "our military-industrial complex has been running at 180% of normal output. And that's just what I know. The classified facilities? They're operating hotter still." Izerp's gills fluttered involuntarily. The claim was audacious, bordering on impossible. "This is quite the claim," Izerp said cautiously. "Before proceeding, I need confirmation. Technicians verify." Lerp and Trope immediately began work, summoning 3D data interfaces from their portable slates. Streams of light, numbers, graphs, and patterns bloomed in the air above the devices. Data collected over decades, intelligence the Vorb had assumed hidden, now streamed in real time. Every field agent report, every intercepted communication, every secret observation of human territories, laid bare. Minutes passed. The human watched silently, expression unreadable. Then slowly the technicians' faces changed. Lerp's green skin paled, black spots stark against the light. Trope's gills worked overtime, rapid shallow breaths betraying mounting shock. Ambassador, Lerp whispered. The human is correct. Every human faction that had been in conflict is now cooperating. Internal wars ceased. Strategic output aligned. They are united. Izerp's mind raced. His species understood warfare. They understood strength, hierarchy, honor, but this was something alien. Not just tactically superior, but conceptually. Humanity had rewritten the rules. You are suggesting that the prospect of war with us caused humanity to put aside all internal conflicts, Izerp said, voice tight. Not suggesting, the human corrected, eyes steady. Stating fact. A threat from you created a shared enemy. It forced unity. All diplomatic overtures, all concessions, all negotiation. It was for one purpose, to protect you. Because if your fleets cross into human space and attack, what comes next won't be a war. It will be extermination. The human laughed then, low and mirthful, a sound that echoed in the small room like a ripple through calm water. Izerp froze, a chill running through him. He tapped a primitive human data pad across the table. The screen flickered, and suddenly Izerp was confronted with a simulation of total war. Not staged battles, not ritualistic campaigns, but a sweeping, terrifying depiction of annihilation. Stealth ships, FTL missiles, orbital bombardments, all human defenses and countermeasures perfectly timed, synchronized, devastating. Every Vorb stronghold, every planetary capital, reduced to molten craters in under 50 minutes. This is propaganda, Izerp whispered, disbelief lining his voice. Verify it, the human said calmly. And so they did. Lerp and Trope cross-referenced every aspect of the simulation with their intelligence networks. Every calculation, every missile trajectory, every hidden asset perfectly aligned. Not propaganda. Not psychological manipulation. Truth. Absolute, unyielding truth. The first strike doctrine, the human said softly, leaning forward, eyes unblinking, is not just a strategy. It is philosophy. Whoever strikes first, strikes hardest, wins. Civilization, rules, honor, etiquette, none apply. Not to us, not to humanity. We don't fight for glory. We fight to end conflict decisively. Permanently. Izerp felt a cold weight settle on him, a realization too vast to articulate. For centuries, his people had misread the humans. For centuries, they had underestimated them. And now, standing in the presence of one, the truth was undeniable. Humanity was not only capable of war, they had mastered it on a scale incomprehensible to any other species. The human leaned back, expression calm, almost apologetic in its intensity. You've underestimated us. You've misread every signal, every treaty, every hesitation. You called us cowards. And yet, in your ignorance, you've walked straight into the shadow of a storm you cannot comprehend. Silence fell. The weight of impending revelation pressed down on all present. Not just the Vorb, not just the technicians, but the room itself seemed to hum with the unspoken truth. Humanity was something other species could not predict, could not fully understand, and if provoked, would unleash a force that the galaxy had never seen. The meeting ended, but the message remained. One simple truth, echoing louder than any council vote, louder than any war drum. Underestimate humanity at your own peril. And far above, in orbit, Earth remained calm, unaware, or perhaps fully aware, of the storm gathering silently in human hands. The Vorb's sovereignty returned to their high council chambers in a flurry of unease. Izerp's steps echoed across the polished corridors, a rhythm out of sync with the anxious chatter of diplomats and generals. Behind him, Lerp and Trope carried the burden of validation, the data streams confirming humanity's assertions. Every intercepted communication, every hidden facility, every missile trajectory had been cross-referenced. It was worse than they feared. Worse than any war simulation, any scenario previously imagined. The humans were unified, not just politically but technologically, culturally, and philosophically. Izerp knew what the council expected. A speech, a narrative, a set of excuses to justify impending aggression. But the meeting had shattered the foundation of all their assumptions. For centuries, the Vorb had interpreted human diplomacy as weakness, their hesitations as cowardice. And now, that interpretation seemed almost laughable. Back on Earth, in the deep orbital command centers, humans were preparing quietly. No fanfare, no declaration, no panic. Their internal conflicts had ceased, as the ambassador had said. Cities that once carried the scars of regional disputes were now hubs of logistical coordination. Factories and orbital shipyards churned with precision, producing not weapons for conquest, but tools for defense, and deterrence that few species could imagine. The first shock came in subtle bursts. Vorb intelligence operatives, long embedded across the colonies of the Sol system, began reporting anomalies. Supply chains that were supposedly disrupted by sabotage or political interference now ran seamlessly. Communications that had been intercepted for years were suddenly encrypted at levels previously thought impossible. And, most disconcertingly, reconnaissance satellites detected coordinated exercises across multiple planets. ISERP's own aides, the finest analysts the sovereignty could provide, came to him with growing alarm. "Ambassador," Lerp said, hands trembling slightly over the interface, "the humans are preparing something. It's not an invasion. It's defensive, but far beyond anything we've observed in terms of scale and coordination." Trope's voice, usually precise and confident, betrayed a tremor. "All intelligence sources indicate absolute unity. Internal conflicts ceased 6 days ago. All factions, from Mars to Europa, working together. Systems we believed independent are fully integrated into a strategic command network." ISERP inhaled, tasting the metallic tang of tension in the air. Every instinct honed over decades of diplomacy screamed that they had miscalculated. Humanity was not simply preparing to defend itself, they were preparing to make any aggression against them a catastrophic gamble. The High Council convened. Its chambers were vast, vaulted, filled with representatives of every major Vorb faction, each with their own advisors and warlords. The projections of human activity were displayed on massive screens, simulations overlaid with intelligence data. Gasps, whispers, and murmurs spread like wildfire. "Are you certain of these numbers?" one counselor demanded. "This cannot be real." "It is real," ISERP said flatly, meeting the collective gaze of the council. "Humanity has unified. Internal conflicts ceased. Their military-industrial output has reached unprecedented levels. They have prepared contingency operations across all planetary holdings in the Sol system." The murmurs grew louder. Some warlords, emboldened by their previous assumptions, scoffed. "They cannot possibly mobilize so quickly," one said. "Their fleets are scattered. Their internal politics are fractured. Even if they have production capacity, they cannot coordinate across multiple worlds with such precision." ISERP's eyes darkened. "That is precisely what they have done." The room fell silent. A silence weighted not with calm but with creeping dread. Simulations of first-strike scenarios, once theoretical, had been rendered moot by human coordination. Every contingency the Vorb had imagined had been anticipated and neutralized. And the humans had done so without firing a single shot. Meanwhile, in the shadowed corridors of the Vorb intelligence headquarters, the analysts were scrambling to reconcile decades of misinterpretation. Reports of peace overtures misread as weakness. Diplomacy misread as fear. Every calculation of human behavior, wrong. Every prediction, obsolete. The humans had acted as a single organism, and the galaxy was only beginning to realize how dangerous that unity could be. On Earth, the human ambassador, whose calm demeanor had unnerved ISERP, returned to command operations. His eyes scanned multiple displays, monitoring activity across human-controlled worlds. Every decision made, every fleet movement plotted, was precise. There was no arrogance, no desire for vengeance, only calculation. The galaxy had underestimated them. Humanity was about to remind everyone why that was a fatal mistake. Troops drilled silently on Mars, orbital platforms hummed with energy, and stealth vessels moved into position around critical infrastructure. But unlike other species, humanity did not rely solely on brute force. Their strategy was elegance, efficiency, and unpredictability. They understood that war was not about glory, it was about survival and deterrence. And for any species that failed to grasp that distinction, the consequences would be devastating. The first signals of escalation came not from fleets, but from communication logs. Vorb operatives noted anomalies, encrypted messages moving at speeds that defied current understanding, coordination of resources across worlds that were supposedly independent, and intelligence-sharing networks that rendered their traditional espionage useless. The humans were not simply preparing, they were already operating on a level the Vorb had not thought possible. ISERP convened a private session with Lerp and Trope. "They've anticipated our assumptions," he said, voice low. "Every scenario we've modeled, they've accounted for. Every weakness we've exploited in the past, they've nullified." Lerp's hands hovered over the interface. They're adaptive. And they're learning from us. Real-time adjustments to our predictions. They are no longer reacting, they are dictating the pace. Trope's gills fluttered nervously. If they are this prepared for a hypothetical war, I cannot imagine what they would do if fully provoked. It was a thought that left Izerp hollow. Humanity had shown restraint. 6 days without conflict internally, coordination across worlds, strategic planning at a level that dwarfed the Vorb Council's best efforts. And yet, he sensed, with a quiet dread, that this restraint was a choice, not a limitation. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Reports of human unification reached neighboring star systems. Species that had dismissed Earth as a backwater planet now watched with fear and awe. The humans who had been called cowards, hesitant and weak, were revealing a strength that no one had anticipated. In the Vorb war rooms, simulations that once favored them now collapsed under scrutiny. The humans' capabilities, previously underappreciated, rendered entire fleets and tactical strategies obsolete. Every warlord, every high-ranking officer, felt the weight of this new reality. For the first time, the question was no longer whether the Vorb could defeat humanity, but whether they could survive a confrontation at all. And humanity remained silent. Their fleets were in position, their defenses optimized, their contingencies prepared. But no aggressive maneuvers were made. The message was clear: humanity did not need to strike first, they were confident in their preparedness. They did not wage war for honor or recognition. They waged it to ensure survival, decisively and without hesitation if provoked. Izerp, sitting in his private quarters aboard Starbound Station, reviewed the latest intelligence feeds. He stared at the endless streams of data, simulations, and human communications. He understood now that every step he had taken under the assumption of human weakness had been flawed. Every decision, every diplomatic negotiation predicated on the idea of cowardice, was now a liability. He thought back to the meeting. The human ambassador had laughed when he called them afraid. And now Izerp understood why. Fear had nothing to do with it. Humanity's restraint was choice, not limitation. And the galaxy was only beginning to comprehend the depth of that choice. The council would meet in 3 days. Votes for war would be cast. Plans would be finalized. And Izerp knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his core, that whatever decisions they made next would determine not just the outcome of a conflict, but the survival of an entire species. For the first time in millennia, a species had truly underestimated humanity. And humanity, patient and precise, had already set the stage for a lesson that the galaxy would never forget. The storm was coming. Not yet unleashed, but inevitable. And when it broke, the Vorb and the rest of the galactic community would learn, with devastating clarity, why humans were not to be mocked, underestimated, or dismissed. Because Earth's defenders did not fight for glory. They fought for survival, and when provoked, they struck with a unity, precision, and ferocity that no species had yet encountered. And the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The galaxy was holding its breath. Across the expanse of space, star systems twinkled like distant eyes, indifferent to the subtle tension building in the void between them. And yet, something unseen had shifted. The humans of Earth were ready, not with fanfare, not with declarations, but with an unseen precision that defied comprehension. In the orbit above Mars, the human command ship Sentinel Prime floated like a guardian in the void. Its sleek form, painted in muted grays, betrayed nothing of the firepower contained within. Inside, the command center was calm. Operators moved in unison, fingers tracing patterns across touch-sensitive consoles, eyes scanning streams of data that flowed faster than thought. Captain Elias Kor, the human leader of the orbital fleet, leaned over the tactical display. His expression was deceptively calm, eyes sharp as flares in the dim light of the control room. Around him, his officers adjusted parameters, monitored communications, and tracked every Vorb movement across the system. Not a single word was wasted. Every command, every motion was deliberate, calculated. Status report, Elias said, voice low but carrying weight. All systems green, replied Commander Lena Chin. Orbital defenses fully operational. Stealth platforms in position. Long-range missiles calibrated. All fleets synchronized. Elias nodded. Good. Keep monitoring. Remember, no offensive action unless provoked. Let them miscalculate, let them underestimate. The irony of the situation was not lost on him. For centuries, the Vorb and the galaxy at large had mocked humans for hesitation, for diplomacy, for restraint. And now, the very thing they had called cowardice was humanity's greatest strength. Patience. Strategy. Unity. Across the void, Vorb fleets were mobilizing, unaware that every movement was already accounted for. Generals barked orders, war councils debated, and fleets streamed toward human-claimed systems with confident arrogance. They believed the humans would crumble under pressure. They believed fear would dictate human action. They were wrong. The first encounter happened quietly, almost imperceptibly. A Vorb reconnaissance fleet approached Europa's orbit, expecting minimal resistance. Within minutes, stealth detection systems aboard human satellites identified the incoming ships, silently relaying coordinates to orbital platforms. And then, without a single shot fired in anger, the humans struck. A silent volley of precision missiles, traveling faster than light could traverse in conventional detection, swept through the Vorb fleet. Shields flared, energy grids overloaded, and vessels were incapacitated before they could mount any organized response. The Vorb crews barely had time to react. Sensors flashed warnings that were already obsolete. Back on Sentinel Prime, Elias watched the display. Confirmed neutralization. No civilian casualties. Vorb fleet disabled. Good work. His tone carried no pride, only the gravity of necessity. Every action was measured, every strike controlled. Humanity did not fight for bloodlust. They fought for survival and deterrence. In the Vorb High Council, disbelief rippled through the chamber. Reports flooded in. Fleets obliterated without apparent human engagement, orbital installations surviving despite heavy bombardment, planetary shields withstanding repeated attacks. The simulations of Izerp's earlier meeting were no longer theoretical. They were manifesting in real time. Impossible, one warlord shouted. We should be winning. Izerp's eyes were cold, his face a mask of forced composure. They have prepared for every contingency. Every strike we launch is anticipated. Every fleet movement countered. They are controlling the battlefield without firing a shot. The Vorb technicians scrambled to access intelligence feeds, attempting to decode human strategy. Every algorithm, every predictive model, collapsed under the humans' adaptive tactics. They had not only coordinated their defenses, they had orchestrated an entire theater of war in silence, using the Vorb's own assumptions against them. Elias convened his officers in the command room. We're not here to conquer, he reminded them. We are here to deter. Let them make the first mistake. Let them underestimate. Our objective is simple: survive, protect, and ensure that any aggression comes at a cost too high to pay. In the orbital platforms around Earth and Mars, stealth ships glided silently. They were invisible, undetectable to conventional sensors, yet positioned with perfect alignment across multiple worlds. Every approach, every vector had been calculated months in advance. The humans had anticipated the Vorb's arrogance, their reliance on brute force, their confidence in outdated intelligence. And then the Vorb struck first, not with diplomacy but with provocation. A small strike fleet attempted an incursion near Saturn's ring colonies. The humans had predicted it. The response was swift, precise, and surgical. Orbital platforms activated, intercepting the incursion before the Vorb could even recognize the threat. Ships disabled, weapons systems neutralized, all without collateral damage. Captain Elias Kor's eyes narrowed. They don't understand us. They think fear drives us. It doesn't. We calculate. We unify. And when the time comes, we strike decisively. Back in the Vorb Council chambers, panic began to take hold. Reports streamed in. The humans had not only defended themselves, they were dominating the strategic narrative. Every Vorb attempt to gain advantage was countered, anticipated, or neutralized. And always the humans remained calm, silent, deliberate. Izerp felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. The galaxy had long misunderstood humans. They had seen diplomacy as weakness, patience as cowardice, restraint as fear. And now the reality was undeniable. The humans were a force unlike any other. Not because they sought war but because they had mastered it even in silence. The turning point came near Jupiter. A Vorb strike fleet attempted to bypass human defenses to reach Mars. Sensors failed them. Communications were jammed. Strategic data flows were intercepted and rerouted. And then, in perfect synchronization, the human forces counterattacked. Missiles, stealth ships, orbital artillery, all converged at once. The fleet was disabled in a manner so precise it seemed preordained. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a species had managed to defend itself on multiple fronts without engaging in indiscriminate combat. Humanity's strategy was not about destruction, it was about inevitability. The message was clear: Any attempt at aggression would be met with overwhelming and unavoidable consequences. In the aftermath of the encounter, Vorb war councils were left in disarray. Izerp reported to the High Council, "They do not fight like us. They do not wage war like us. They control outcomes, not battles. And they do it with a restraint that makes our own arrogance their weapon against us." Back on Earth, Captain Kor stood in silence, watching multiple screens. Each report confirmed the same truth: humanity was unified, coordinated, and prepared for any eventuality. And yet, there was no celebration, no gloating. Only quiet determination. "We've shown restraint," Elias said softly. "We've protected ourselves. And now the galaxy knows they cannot underestimate us. That is enough." And across the galaxy, whispers spread. The humans of Earth were no longer the species that could be mocked, ignored, or dismissed. They were the species that had mastered war without fighting it, precisely, decisively, and with a unity that defied understanding. The first strike of silence had been delivered, and the galaxy would never forget it. The galaxy was learning a lesson it had never expected. Not from weapons, not from fleets, and not from sheer numbers, but from the humans' refusal to be predictable. Across the void, whispers of fear and awe rippled through star systems. The Vorb had assumed superiority, a species forged in the fires of combat, yet now they confronted a reality they could not calculate, could not contain. On the orbital command station above Ganymede, Captain Elias Kor stood before the hollow table, its surface alive with streams of intelligence, Vorb fleet movements, and human defensive positions. He traced a finger along the projected vectors. Every line represented not a battle fought, but a battle anticipated. Every node was a trap or a shield, a deterrent or a lure. It was human strategy distilled into a symphony of control. Commander Lena Chen looked up. "They're reorganizing. They're sending reinforcements toward the outer colonies. They think they've adapted, but their timing is off." Elias didn't reply immediately. He studied the Vorb's movements, seeing patterns that none of their simulations could predict. "Let them come," he said finally. "Every move they make only confirms what we already know. Their aggression is predictable because they believe violence defines us. It does not." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Vorb war councils erupted in panic. Izerp's earlier shock had given way to determination, but it was tempered by fear. The Vorb High Council demanded answers. How could a species so small, so seemingly insignificant, resist and dominate without deploying conventional warfare? "We underestimated them," one counselor admitted. "We believed their hesitation was weakness. Their diplomacy, their patience, we mistook it for fear. And now?" Izerp's green face, marked with coastal black spots, darkened. "Now we are on the defensive. Every fleet we launch is countered before it even engages. Every colony we try to pressure is shielded or evacuated. We have walked into a trap that does not exist in any of our historical records." The humans were not merely defending, they were teaching the galaxy the limits of assumption. Every move by the Vorb, every attempt at intimidation, was anticipated and neutralized with precision that seemed almost prescient. In Earth's orbit, Elias convened a meeting with the human fleet captains. The room was silent, the weight of responsibility hanging in the air like a physical force. "We do not seek conquest," Elias began. "We do not seek vengeance. We seek balance. But balance comes at a price, and the galaxy must understand, we will not be cowed. We will not be underestimated. And we will strike decisively if forced to act." The tactical maps lit up, showing Vorb fleets converging from multiple sectors, their arrogance unshaken. Yet every strike they prepared, every maneuver was anticipated. Human stealth ships intercepted communications. Orbital weapons neutralized supply lines. Intelligence drones revealed strategic weak points before the Vorb could exploit them. Captain Elias paused, eyes narrowing. "We are the calm before the storm. And this storm is not ours to unleash lightly." The first human action that truly shocked the galaxy was subtle yet devastating. On the surface of Titan, humans had constructed what appeared to be an energy harvesting station. To the casual observer, it was a minor outpost, hardly worth the attention of a Vorb strike team. But within hours of the Vorb fleet's approach, the station activated a silent defensive array. Shield generators engaged. Stealth interceptors launched. Orbital drones dispersed across the sky like a cloud of silver fire. The Vorb strike fleet attempted an assault. Every weapon fired, every maneuver executed, was anticipated and countered. By the time the Vorb realized the magnitude of the trap, their ships were disabled, some entirely neutralized. And still, the humans had not engaged in full-scale warfare. They had not fired missiles in anger beyond immediate defense. Elias stood at the observation window, watching the distant flashes of Vorb energy discharges. "They are learning too late," he murmured. "They cannot adapt fast enough. And that is the point. The galaxy must learn what humanity truly is before we are forced to fight as we know how." In the Vorb Council, Izerp's composure was fraying. "We must escalate," he said, voice tight. "Send all fleets to engage simultaneously. Overwhelm them before they can react." High Counselor Blurry, a master of strategy and influence, shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "You cannot overwhelm what does not fight conventionally. Every fleet we launch is already compromised before reaching them. Every action is countered. We are blind to their methods, and every escalation only tightens the net they have woven." Izerp's mind raced. Humans, small, terrestrial, bipedal, were acting as if they controlled the galaxy's tempo. And in many ways they did. By refusing to act impulsively, by controlling every movement and every reaction, humanity had imposed its own order upon chaos. On Earth, Elias gathered his council again. The Vorb believe that war is linear, that combat is an exchange of strength and attrition. They are wrong. Humanity does not measure victory by destruction alone. Victory is measured by preservation, by survival, by deterrence. Commander Chen leaned forward. "Do we engage further, sir?" Elias's gaze was steady. "Not unless we must. Let the galaxy witness our restraint. Let them see that humanity does not fight without purpose. And when the time comes, we will show them the consequence of misjudging us. Every strike they plan against us will be their own undoing." The next Vorb move was audacious. They deployed a fleet toward Mercury's orbit, aiming to pressure Earth directly. But even this was anticipated. Human interceptors, launched from hidden platforms in orbit and from the moon, cut off the fleet silently. Communication jamming prevented coordinated attacks. Supply lines for the Vorb ships were disrupted mid-transit. And still, no human missile had been fired beyond self-defense. In the shadows of the command center, tactical officers whispered. "It's as if they know every move before it happens." Elias allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile. "We do not know everything," he said quietly. "But we know enough. Enough to ensure that anyone who underestimates humanity will regret it." Across the galaxy, the message began to spread. A species long dismissed as cautious, hesitant, and even cowardly was now demonstrating the ultimate mastery: to win without needlessly shedding blood, to deter without brute force, to unify a planet and show the galaxy that restraint is a weapon as sharp as any blade. For the Vorb, panic was setting in. For the galaxy at large, fear mingled with fascination. And for humanity, the strategy was clear. Every move measured, every strike calculated, every victory decisive but restrained. And in the calm of Sentinel Prime's command room, Captain Elias Core reflected. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries. Now the galaxy would learn. Not through war, not through arrogance, but through the quiet, unyielding mastery of strategy, unity, and the refusal to be anything less than prepared. The veil of human strategy had been lifted. And the galaxy could never again see humanity in the same way. The calm was a weapon. Humanity's restraint had become the galaxy's greatest uncertainty. Across every star system, whispers of disbelief grew louder. The Vorb fleets, once arrogant and poised to strike, hesitated as they realized that every action was anticipated, every plan countered. The galaxy had begun to question. What power did humanity truly hold? On the bridge of the orbital command station above Earth, Captain Elias Core moved among his officers with quiet authority. The holomaps displayed Vorb fleet positions, their energy signatures glowing like pale fire against the darkness of space. Every Vorb vessel was where they were expected to be, every formation exactly as predicted. Commander Lena Chen's eyes were sharp. "Sir, they've adjusted formations again. It's almost as if they're trying to provoke a reaction." Elias did not flinch. "Let them provoke. Let them think they understand us." He paused, letting the words sink into the room like the weight of a star falling through gravity. "They will learn soon enough that humans do not react impulsively. And when we act, it will be deliberate, precise, total." Across the void, Izerp's green skin glimmered under the artificial lights of the Vorb command ship Crimson Fong. His eyes, normally so certain, darted over intelligence reports with a growing sense of unease. His advisors spoke quickly, voices laced with panic. "They have not fired a single offensive strike," said Trope, his gills fluttering rapidly. And yet, every move we make is countered. It's as if they see our intentions before we even form them. Izerp's jaw tightened. That is exactly what is happening. He turned to the Council's analysts. We underestimated them. We mistook patience for weakness, caution for cowardice. And now, his voice faltered then hardened. Now we are on the edge of disaster. Back on Earth, the first sign of humanity's controlled offensive began quietly, almost imperceptibly. From hidden orbital platforms and deep space installations, stealth strike units began repositioning. Ships moved with silent precision, weaving through gravitational shadows, evading sensors, and taking up vantage points invisible to even the most advanced Vorb detection systems. The human fleet was small, but every ship was a linchpin in a larger design. Every trajectory was calculated to perfection. Every timing, every formation, was part of a symphony that only humans could conduct. Elias surveyed the operation. This is not chaos, he said softly. This is order. The galaxy has mistaken our patience for inaction. And patience is the most dangerous weapon of all. On the surface of Mars, the hidden industrial complexes were humming at full capacity. Automated assembly lines had produced decades of military hardware in just months, all designed to support rapid, decisive deployment. Missile systems, stealth drones, orbital interceptors, all calibrated to Earth's tactical doctrines. And yet, none of it had been used offensively, until now. Elias pressed the command console. A soft hum filled the bridge as the first human offensive began. Missile platforms across the solar system powered up, energy cores glowing softly against the void. FTL-capable interceptors slid silently into position, their cloaking fields active, undetectable by Vorb sensors. Engage when ready, Elias said. The first Vorb fleet to enter Earth's gravitational corridor, an imposing line of cruisers and destroyers, felt the weight of the humans' control almost immediately. Systems failed mid-course. Sensors flickered. Engines stalled. Communications dropped. Every Vorb vessel was caught in a web of electronic disruption, orbital manipulation, and precision strikes before they even knew they were under attack. Izerp's eyes widened as reports streamed in. What is this? How are they doing this without engaging directly? Trope could barely speak. Sir, it's as if every system, every weapon, every vulnerability has been anticipated and neutralized before we even move. Across the galaxy, fleets paused. Star systems watched as human forces, thought to be defensive and passive, launched an offensive that was surgical, controlled, and terrifying in its precision. No unnecessary destruction, no collateral targets. Yet every strike crippled Vorb capability, every maneuver showcased mastery of strategy that went beyond conventional warfare. Elias addressed his officers again, voice calm but resolute. This is not the end. It is a demonstration. Let the galaxy witness what happens when humans are forced to act. On Izerp's flagship, the Council had descended into chaos. We cannot continue like this, one warlord shouted. They have no right to possess this level of foresight. It defies every principle of combat. Izerp's face darkened. No, it is not defiance, it is humanity. And we have underestimated them for centuries. They are not cowards. They are something far more dangerous, patient, united, and unstoppable when pushed to the edge. Meanwhile, in the human command room, Elias observed the Vorbs panic through live feeds. His eyes were steady, unwavering, as if he already knew the outcome. Let them see what happens when they mock a species they do not understand, he said quietly. Let them learn that our laughter at war is not fear, it is control. And in that moment, across the galaxy, a pattern emerged. Star systems that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant began to reevaluate. Terran colonies communicated with one another, sharing intelligence and resources, forming an interstellar web of coordination that had been unseen for centuries. Every human settlement, every fleet, every station was part of a unified design. Izerp's advisors were frantic. We can't fight them conventionally. They will outmaneuver us at every step. Every system we deploy is compromised before it even engages. How do we respond? Adapt, Izerp growled. But we must understand, they are not just responding to us. They are teaching us a lesson. Every attack we plan, every fleet we deploy is part of their strategy. They want us to see the limits of our assumptions. The humans' first strike was over almost as quietly as it had begun. No fleets annihilated entire systems, no cities destroyed. Yet the message was clear. Underestimate humanity at your own peril. Their patience was not passivity. Their unity was not weakness. Their restraint was a weapon more precise than any missile, sharper than any blade. In the aftermath, the galaxy waited in awe. Vorp command ships retreated to regroup, humbled and terrified. Other species observed, silent and cautious, realizing that the humans they had mocked were not just survivors, they were masters of warfare without need for unnecessary bloodshed. On Earth, Elias Kor allowed himself a rare smile. "They laughed at us," he said to his officers. "They thought we were cowards. Now they know, humans do not fight because we must, but because when we do, the universe itself feels our strength." And far across the stars, whispers turned to shouts. Do not underestimate humanity. The galaxy had learned its first lesson. But humanity's story was far from over. The galaxy held its breath. After the precision strikes, after the silent display of humanity's power, silence reigned across star systems. Even the most aggressive species, those who had long mocked humans as weak, found themselves paralyzed by uncertainty. Could this species, this world of fragile-looking bipeds, actually destroy entire fleets without shedding the rivers of blood they were accustomed to? On the orbital bridge above Mars, Captain Elias Kor leaned over the holomap, tracing the positions of Vorb fleets with a calm hand. His officers were tense but controlled. Every eye in the room was on him, awaiting direction, awaiting the moment when humans would reveal the final lesson. Elias spoke softly, but each word carried weight. "We've shown them what patience can do. We've demonstrated control, precision, and unity. Now, it's time to show the galaxy the full measure of human resolve." Commander Lena Chen's fingers hovered over the command interface. "Sir, are you certain? Once we act next, there's no turning back. Entire fleets will be neutralized. Civilizations will take note, and not all will welcome our power." Elias's expression remained calm. "That's the point, Commander. Humanity does not strike out of pride or vengeance or desire for conquest. We act to protect ourselves and those who cannot. Let the galaxy understand, our restraint was never weakness. Our strength was always waiting to be revealed." Across the void, Izerp's crimson fang trembled under the weight of reports streaming in from Vorb fleets. Systems were failing with alarming consistency. Communications were disrupted, engines stalled, defensive arrays compromised. Every attempt to adapt was anticipated, every contingency neutralized. Trope skills pulsed rapidly, an involuntary reaction to the mounting fear. "Sir, every fleet we've deployed is contained, trapped. Their movement is preordained. It's as if the humans can see every possibility before we even conceive it." Izerp's eyes narrowed, his chromatophores shifting rapidly. "We've underestimated them. We believed caution meant fear. We assumed avoidance meant cowardice. We are fools. Entire generations of Vorb arrogance, undone by patience and intellect." In a silent chamber beneath Earth's surface, the final phase of the operation began. Massive data networks synchronized fleets, orbital weapons, planetary defenses, and stealth platforms across hundreds of light-years. Human engineers had developed predictive algorithms so advanced, they could calculate the probable movements of enemy fleets, supply chains, and communications before a single action was taken. Missiles launched, not in anger, not in vengeance, but as a demonstration. FTL-capable projectiles streaked through space, moving with blinding speed yet surgical accuracy. Stealth drones infiltrated command ships, broadcasting the truth of human strength. Total control without chaos, precision without unnecessary destruction. Elias Kor observed the display, voice calm as ever. "Remember, this is not punishment. This is clarity. They will see the truth of humanity, not as aggressors but as protectors, as masters of our destiny. And the galaxy will remember." In the Vorb High Council chamber, panic erupted. War councils convened in haste, advisors shouting over one another. "They've neutralized our fleets across 3 sectors," shouted a Vorb warlord, voice trembling with fear. "How is this possible?" Izerp's expression was grave. "It's not just possible, it's inevitable. We misjudged them for centuries. We assumed weakness where there was patience. We assumed inaction where there was strategy. The humans have revealed something fundamental. Our rules do not apply to them." Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched in stunned silence. The Drellian fleets, who had long considered themselves masters of tactical warfare, paused in mid-deployment. The Carathian armadas, known for their ferocity, halted and recalculated. One by one, species that had once mocked humanity began to re-evaluate, realizing that what they had dismissed as weakness was a force far beyond their comprehension. Back on Earth, Elias addressed his officers, voice steady but resonant across the bridge. Today the galaxy learned something important. Humanity does not fight to dominate. We fight to endure, to protect, and to ensure that when we act, it is decisive. Let this message echo across every star system. Underestimate us at your peril. The humans' final demonstration unfolded like a quiet symphony of power. Entire Vorb fleets, poised for invasion, found themselves contained, crippled, and neutralized without a single unnecessary loss of life. Planetary shields were disarmed remotely, logistics chains disrupted, and warships immobilized. In a quiet observation room, Izerp's eyes were wide with disbelief. His hands trembled as he gestured to his advisors. We have never faced anything like this. Their systems anticipate ours, their fleets counter ours, their decisions are beyond comprehension. Trope whispered almost to himself, They didn't just defend. They taught us. They showed us what true mastery looks like. The galaxy understood then in a moment of collective clarity. Humanity's laughter at war was not derision or fear. It was confidence, discipline, and patience forged over millennia. They were a species that had survived countless conflicts, not by recklessness, but by learning, adapting, and choosing the moment to reveal their strength. On the surface of Earth, civilians looked up at the night sky, unaware of the intricate ballet of strategy playing out above them. They went about their lives, children laughing, engineers working, farmers tending fields. And yet, above them, the galaxy watched, humbled, fearful, and awed by the quiet power of humanity. Elias Kor finally allowed himself a small, rare smile. They mocked us, he said softly. They thought our restraint was cowardice. And now, they know the truth. Humanity does not fight to survive alone. Humanity fights to endure, to protect, and when necessary to teach the universe that weakness is an illusion. Across the stars, the Vorb fleets retreated. Other species began diplomatic overtures, seeking to understand, to negotiate, to avoid the wrath of a species they had long underestimated. And in the end, humanity's lesson was simple, yet profound. Patience was not weakness. Unity was not submission. Restraint was a weapon sharper than any blade, and when humans acted, it was with purpose, precision, and the quiet certainty that the galaxy had never seen before. The legend of that day, the day humans laughed at war and the galaxy learned their strength, would be told for centuries. Not as a story of conquest, but as a story of restraint, intelligence, and the indomitable spirit that defined humanity. Captain Elias Kor gazed at the stars, voice calm, echoing in the command room. Let them remember this: when humans laugh at war, it is not fear, it is strategy. It is patience. It is the promise that we are never to be underestimated. And somewhere, across countless systems, the universe paused. For humanity had spoken, not with bluster, not with chaos, but with the quiet, unyielding power of those who have learned the ultimate truth, that true strength lies not in aggression but in mastery. The galaxy would never forget.